Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video, we are going to be reviewing Starfield. Now before I go any further, I would just like to say the usual YouTube stuff, which is, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I know not a lot of people are going to watch this. The views have now gone down, but for the people who are already here, I appreciate you guys sticking around, and let's get on with the actual video. So now let's start off with story. Now, this is going to be a completely spoiler-free review. There are no spoilers here. And so that's how I'm going to do this video. So in terms of story though, the one advice I would give is not to focus on side quests a lot. Now you can do that. You can play this game like a typical Bethesda game. I'm just saying that there is something that happens at the end of the main quest that would make you lose all the progress you have around the world. Now, that is also a way you can approach this. That's also a way you can do all the side quests, then start that new game, but you don't actually carry over anything, like not your outposts, not any resources, guns, ammo, outfits, whatever. You can't carry over anything. So, proceed with caution and do what you want. Like, I personally didn't care that much. I did all the side stuff, but I left it in a heartbeat. You might be different. Other than that, I would say the story is generally well written. The pacing does suffer, but that I have a problem with every Bethesda game, as pretty much in every Bethesda game that I have played, I pretty much forgot the main story and went on doing side quests, which is exactly what I did here as well. It's just Bethesda has this way of grabbing you with stuff that isn't the main quest. Like, you go to the first area and suddenly there is this new quest that is just available. You start doing that and suddenly yeah, this is interesting. Let me just do this. So that is something the main story does suffer, especially the mid part of the main story, in my opinion, does suffer for that. But in general, I feel like the story is really good. And as far as the side stories are concerned, I already said, they are immersive enough to the point where I completely forgot about the main story. So yeah, that's how things are. So now from that, we move on to exploration. Now, exploring the world is another strong suit of Bethesda, but it also comes with the first weakness. Now, exploration in this game is simply on foot or in your spaceship. But to be fair, you don't really do much exploring in your spaceship. All you do is go into space, maybe engage in a little bit of combat, and do some grav jumps. That's pretty much all you can do in space. You can fly to a different planet, as a certain gamer did. Now, I know who she is, but I'm calling her gamer because that's what some of the news outlets did, so I find that very funny. So yeah, so she essentially flew all the way to Pluto. It took like 7 hours or something. So it was a long time. It's not exactly fast. But you can do that, but also you pass right through the planet. So it's not exactly seamless. So yeah, in terms of exploration, most of the exploration that you will do is on foot. And in on-foot exploration in cities like Neon or in Arcadia or New Atlantis, they are good in general. I never felt like it was a big problem for me. But also, it does become a problem when you have to go through some barren lands. And at that point, you are really feeling the need for a space rover or something. I don't even need a big rover. Even a 2-speed, even a 2-wheeler will do. Or a speed bike thing, a floating speed bike thing will do. And honestly, this game really needs it for its exploration. Exploration in your normal planets and stuff is fine. As soon as you get to planets and start building outposts and stuff, things are so far apart, and honestly you just have to run towards them, which this game does allow a lot more running, in my opinion, because after your stamina bar is over, so essentially after your oxygen meter is over, more running will induce more carbon dioxide. When that fills up, you will start taking damage, but you can still keep running. So I never felt like I should stop running. I mean, there were always clever tricks that I used, like jumping and boosting in between to sort of get some of the stamina back. So that was there, but I still felt like the speed was really slow and I could have been doing something much better at that point. And so having something like a rover, which I am sure the modders will eventually end up adding in this game, that would have really helped. with exploration. And another problem with exploration are the loading screens. And that brings me perfectly to the next point, the world itself. Now, continuing with the point that I made earlier, the world is immersive in its own right. Like when you get to New Atlanta, so when you get to Neon, especially when you go inside in Neon's gates, it is genuinely a good-looking area. But the problem is the loading screens. Essentially, every time you go to a semi-new area, there's a loading screen. Or anytime you want to, say, you can grab jump in some instances without going into the space, the stars menu. So what you need to do is, if you have a mission selected, if you are tracking a mission, you just need to click on that mission, like press A, and then you can fast travel. You just need to power up your grab drive. So that part is good. But also that's not entirely what you need to do. You still need to go into the menu to actually land into a planet. And so all these loading screens really does affect the gameplay experience, in my opinion. I would have really loved if these things were seamless. And who knows, I mean, we had the open cities in Skyrim, so we may actually get to a point in future where people just implement these things. But my point is, Bethesda should have been the ones to implement these things. Now, I'm not going to criticize the devs for not doing it, because clearly they didn't prioritize it into whatever they were trying to achieve with this game, but I feel like they really should have. But other than that, though, the world actually is very immersive. Like, it's a typical Bethesda game where the world itself is very immersive. And even though, yeah, I have complained about design like this before, like in Odyssey, where it's just a flat map. It's just that Bethesda populates that flat map with a lot more meaningful content that something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Valhalla does. And it's the same thing with The Witcher 3 actually. So if you have a map like this, if you have a flat map like this, you better fucking make it interesting somehow. Otherwise, it's going to be boring. And honestly, as I said before, without the rovers, it does fall a little bit into the boring areas. So this is something that needs to be fixed. I don't know if Bethesda will actually do it or will the modders do it. It's probably going to be the modders. So yeah, that's how things stand right now. So from world, we move on to the gameplay aspects. Now, gameplay is a fairly simple loop. So usually if you have a quest, you go talk to the other person, or you shoot the other person, or you maybe steal from the other person. Now, if you go talk to the other person, there are some persuasion challenges, and so I would highly recommend you focus on the persuasion skills. So the higher persuasion chance you have, it will actually help you throughout the game. Now, that being said, having combat skills is also important. Unlocking piloting, I would say, should be the first thing that you do. It helps a lot. Then there is also the targeting skill. You should absolutely unlock that. Those are in the tech tree, I believe. And in general, like the skills, in my opinion, are a little bit weird, because once you unlock a skill, to unlock the next level of that skill, you actually need to complete challenges. So it makes sense to me why that's the thing. Like, for example, persuasion skill, right? So if I select a persuasion skill, now I have 10% better chance of persuading someone. Now what I need to do is actually win those 10 speech battles. I'm going to call them speech battles, it's cooler. So you need to win those 10 speech battles, and after you win those, then you can unlock the next level of speech, which will give you 20% persuasion chance. Now, it's really, you will either love it or hate it. Like, I personally, I can understand why they did it. Like, it makes you actually use the skills, and once you actually use the skills, you can upgrade the skills even more. So for my perspective, it makes sense. The skills that you are actually using are the ones you keep upgrading. But also it limits you in doing other things. For example, maybe there is a skill which I don't often use, something like stealth, which is coming from me should be a shock, because my entire channel is about stealth and parkour and Assassin's Creed. So yeah, I don't generally use stealth in Bethesda games because they are busted, and I don't like the way stealth is handled. But then again, I don't really care. Like, the stealth is, I'm not playing stealth, I'm not skipping stealth in Bethesda games because they are hard to do or they are mechanically broken. No, they work. It's just that it becomes so OP after a while that it just doesn't feel fun anymore. So that's why I don't play stealth in Bethesda games. So anyway, so say I'm not playing stealth, but I would still like to, have that as an option. I still feel like Bethesda hit the nail with Skyrim's skill tree, and every further attempt seems like an attempt away from that perfect system. Like, I'm not saying Skyrim is perfect, but I'm saying that Skyrim was as close to being perfect as we are going to get, at least in my opinion. Other than that, there is another huge problem with gameplay, that is the third-person combat. Now, the spaceship combat is actually pretty good. It feels really nice, especially with the piloting skill, and once you actually get a hang of how you should, position your spaceship and things like that, and with the advanced targeting system, the combat is generally very good in space. But then you get to the on-foot combat, which in first person, I would say it's a big improvement over Fallout 4, which is the closest comparison because it was made by Bethesda and it also featured guns. So it is close to Fallout, it is better than Fallout 4, but the third person combat is not good at all. So the way to actually fix that, so there are some mods that genuinely did help my experience, but unfortunately I only found those mods near the end of my playthrough. So it was just the last 5 hours or so which I used the mod, and it felt really good. So even third person combat can feel good, but you need to increase your FOV and you need to use those other mods so that you can. So there is this mod which essentially makes it so that the camera is the same for all weapons. So like it uses the pistol camera for every weapon, and in my opinion that actually felt very, very good for me. So that's a recommendation from my end. You will probably find that mod easily in Nexus mods. So that, in my opinion, is a genuine problem. That is something Bethesda themselves should have handled, and I do not, for the life of me, understand why in 2023 a game does not have an FOV slider. Why, Bethesda? Like, I can do it from an INI file. Why is this not an option in the game? It should be just one slider in the game. It's not that hard to implement, guys, especially because you have that functionality. Just tweaking the INI a little bit already gives me that functionality. So why can't it be in the game? Why do I need to go to an INI file to fix it? These are some things that Bethesda really need to improve on. In my opinion, that these are some of the things that are genuine problems with Bethesda games. And another problem that I have with combat, which is not the camera, is the scaling. Now to be fair, I have had this problem before with Fallout as well, but I'll just give you an example. So there is this one mission. Again, I'm not going to spoil the details, but in one mission you have to fight a terrormorph. Actually, technically 3 terrormorphs. Now, I actually went to some people, I talked to them and persuaded them into joining us for this fight, so that I would at least have like 4 or 5 people when I take on the terrormorph, which is like a genuinely tough enemy. So I did that, and then these 4 people fucked off. I don't know where they went. Like my companion, so Sarah I think was my companion at that point, she disappeared, and so did the other people. And so now I am fighting this one terrormorph, and I completely emptied my entire arsenal of weapons. Like, I'm not joking. I completely emptied all my weapons there. Like, I didn't have a single bullet remaining, to the point where at the end I was actually hitting that terrormorph with a melee weapon to finally kill it. So I basically removed all the ammo that I had, and I couldn't kill one enemy. And in my opinion, whenever a situation like that occurs, that's just bad game balancing. And now you might be saying, hey, you probably are too underleveled to actually take on that quest. Except in that same quest line, in literally the same next mission, I did go into combat and it was extremely easy again. So there are these random spikes which really shouldn't happen. Now, to take down the terrormorphs, there is actually a weapon that will help you. So all you need to do is fire it like 3-4 times and the terrormorph kind of goes down. It doesn't die, it goes down, and then you're supposed to, deal more damage. Except, I don't know, maybe it was because my companion wasn't there and wasn't hitting it. It took a very long time to actually do it, and it just wasn't worth it. And these are things that Bethesda generally needs to fix. Now, I did find a fix again with a mod, which did fix the scaling a little bit for me. Like, it removed that extra bonus health the enemy was getting and also I was getting. So the combat felt a lot more natural. But again, it was with a mod, it was not the base game. And say you're playing this on Xbox, you won't get access to mods, at least not yet. Now from that we move on to graphics. Now graphics in this game can range from absolutely stunning to mediocre. And I'm saying mediocre like in the sense where it looks like a last gen game. Like a really good last gen game, but a last gen game. So this doesn't have ray tracing, so it comes with all the problems that screen space stuff usually has. But honestly, it's not that much of a problem because screen space techniques have been, optimized, tweaked to the point where we just accept them as normal now. And my PC at least doesn't have the grunt required to run ray tracing. But yeah, other than that, I would say, the things like facial lighting. A lot of people have pointed out that faces look really bad in some lighting conditions. And again, I can understand why. Because if you look at this objectively, like there are so many planets. There are so many different lighting conditions. It is difficult to get, the face looking really good in every lighting condition. So it makes sense that they basically just made the face look really good in the lighting conditions that people will be the most familiar with, like Aquila City or like Neon or the New Atlantis, the places where you be most of the game. That's where the faces look the best, in my opinion. So I can understand why that's a thing, but also, as a next gen game, we are expecting a bit more. Like this really feels like a last gen game that is not really a last gen game. Other than that, in graphics, the faces, in my opinion, look a lot better. I've seen people say that, oh, the faces look bad. And in fact, you might remember in the old, in some of my older videos, I've complained about these things. I've complained about, the faces having sort of generic animations. And this also falls into that same trap. But it's not as bad. The faces actually are fairly well animated, but they're still in that uncanny valley zone where you can tell these are not real faces. And honestly, it's fine that they are not real. It's just that it doesn't hit you quite as a real face would. But I would say it's still a huge improvement over any of the games that Bethesda has made in the past. And the faces in general look fairly good. They do fall apart in some scenarios, but they generally look good. But now from graphics, we need to address the elephant in the room, which is the performance. Now I've said that this game very much looks like a last gen game. And why wouldn't it? Because it's basically using all the techniques from last gen. Or actually these techniques aren't even from last gen, these are very old techniques. It's just that the techniques get better with time and they get more demanding with time. But honestly, it never felt to me that the game was worthy of the resources that it is demanding, especially in areas like New Atlantis. Now, don't get me wrong, the game looks really, really good. It's just that it's demanding a lot more than it really should, in my opinion. Like, especially from the GPU side. And sometimes, like even now, after all the updates and the driver updates, my GPU is still not being utilized. Like, it's still not hitting its power limits. Like, it's still like 140. So earlier, like without the first update, without the first NVIDIA update, the driver update, I was getting like a 140 watt utilization on my CPU, on my GPU. Now my GPU, for context, is a 3060. It can go up to 170 watts, at least in my card. It can go up to 170 and it was stuck at 140. And after the driver update, it went up to 150, but never higher than that. Like, this game is very much GPU limited, but also it's not boosting that extra 30 watts, 20 watts. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so clearly there are some optimization issues still with this game. And I'm sure someone down the line will fix it, or maybe even Bethesda themselves have fixed it. I haven't played this game in a week, so I don't know. I will talk about that later, why I haven't played this in a week. So yeah, the performance is a sore spot, I'm not gonna lie. And like, even with like DLSS close to being balanced in my hardware, I'm still getting dips down to somewhere like 45 FPS in New Atlantis. Like, for the most part, the game is stable. I'm pretty much playing locked at 60, it's not a problem. There are just some areas in the game where it dips down below 50, which is a problem. But now from that, I move on to the point where I was making before, which is I haven't played this game in 7 days. Now, I genuinely recommend this game, so why haven't I been playing it? Well, the reason I haven't been playing it is because I have seen that whenever I sort of rush a review, like make a review right after I finish playing a game, I generally tend to be very positive on the game and don't tend to look at the flaws. So that's why I sort of gave it a cooldown time of 7 days so that I can generally, make a good point about the game. So what do I actually feel about the game? I feel like it's a really good game and it's a game that everyone should play. And for once, it's a game that everyone can actually play. What I would recommend everyone to do is get a month of Game Pass, play the game for 1 month. 1 month is enough for you to finish the game and even get to all the side content and stuff like that. Just keep a month aside just to play Starfield and just play and just complete Starfield to its fullest. And once you're done with it, like at least once you're done with one pass of the main story, once your Game Pass expires, just wait for the next sale and buy it then. That would be my genuine recommendation, especially on PC. Like I'm sure the performance will have improved by the time this game goes on sale for the first time. I'm assuming somewhere near December. The Christmas sale is when we'll actually get the first sale. So once you get to that point, once you get to like December, I'm sure the game would be in a much better state. And also you will have a lot more mods, you will have a lot more customization in the game. So it's a win-win. So like not only do you get to play the game early, like day one with the Game Pass, then you get the game on a discount and you can probably save more money than you spent on that 1 month of Game Pass. And so yeah, it's a win-win situation. That's what I am doing currently. Now I still have this game on Game Pass, but I'm just chilling out, taking my time out. I already have the experience of Starfield. Now next time I'm going to play this game the way I want it to. So that's kind of the experience. That's what I typically do with Bethesda games. So anyway, that's my genuine recommendation. Do let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and I will leave you guys in peace.